All right, today we're going to unpack a complete strategic toolkit, one that's designed to help pretty much any product succeed out there. And this isn't just a bunch of theory. This is a practical, hands-on guide to building a strategy that actually wins. So let's dive right in.
This is the million-dollar question, right? It's the thing that keeps every founder, every product manager, every marketer up at night. Because look, having a good idea is one thing, but having a smart, adaptable strategy is everything. And that's exactly what we're going to build together today, piece by piece.
So first up, we have to get our heads around this idea that every single product has a life story. It really does. It has a narrative arc, a clear beginning, a middle, and eventually an end. Now, in the business world, we call this the product life cycle, and it's our first major tool for figuring out when to make our big strategic moves.
And that story, it pretty much always unfolds across 4 distinct stages. It all starts with the introduction. That's the launch, when you're just fighting to get noticed. Then, if you're lucky, you hit the growth phase. And this is exciting. Sales start to really take off. After that, things tend to level out in the maturity stage as the market gets a bit crowded. And finally, every product eventually faces the decline stage. The absolute key here is knowing which stage you're in right now.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because the contrast between these stages is just huge. Think about it. During the introduction, your number one problem is just getting people to know you exist. You're pouring money into marketing, but sales are just trickling in. Now you fast forward to the maturity stage, and oh man, the entire game has changed. Everybody knows who you are, but they also know who all your competitors are too. Your focus has to shift completely, from just building awareness to proving why you're different and defending the turf you've already won. Well, that leads us perfectly into our second section. Because as your product grows up and starts to mature, you realize you are not alone in the sandbox anymore. You've got rivals. And to navigate this really competitive landscape, you're going to need a map. And that map is competitor analysis. So, what is competitor analysis really? It's so much more than just a quick peek at what the other guys are doing. It's a systematic, almost forensic process. You're identifying exactly who you're up against, you're dissecting their game plan, and you're figuring out where they're strong and, even more importantly, where they're weak. But how do you spot your true competitors? Because it's not always who you think it is. We can look at 4 really helpful clues. First, are they chasing the same customers you are? Simple enough. Are their sales taking off like a rocket? But check out these last 2 points. This is where it gets tricky. They might be solving the exact same problem you do, but in a totally different way, maybe even in a different product category. Or they might solve it at a wildly different price point. You've got to think beyond the obvious to really understand who you're playing against.
Okay, so you know where your product is in its life story, and you've mapped out the competition. Now it's time to open up the toolkit. You need the right instruments to actually dig into the data and find that little sliver of strategic advantage.
The first tool we're going to grab is the SWOT analysis. You've probably heard of it, and let me tell you, it is a classic for a reason. It gives you this incredibly clear 4-quadrant view of the battlefield by making you look at your internal strengths and weaknesses and then matching those against the external opportunities and threats out there in the market.
Let's make this real. We'll use a skincare brand, Free Plus, as our example. Look how quickly this lays everything out. Internally, a big strength is their mild formula. Awesome. But a weakness? That higher price point. Then you look externally. There's a huge opportunity with the growing demand for sensitive skin products. But the threat is just as real, intense competition from giants like Ulta MD and Dove. Just like that, you can see where you need to play to your strengths and what dangers you need to watch out for.
Now for our next tool, and honestly, this one is much more modern and, frankly, incredibly powerful. Instead of just looking at what companies say about themselves, we're going to analyze what thousands of their actual customers are saying in online reviews. This is where the truth lives. And oh, does the data tell a story here. We're comparing Free Plus to its top 10 competitors based on what customers are saying. So on feel, you can see they're right on par with the average, which is great. But then look at smell and packaging. Whoa, those are massive gaps. Customers are flagging these as major issues, which gives Free Plus an unbelievably clear, data-driven roadmap on exactly what to fix. So what's actually behind those low scores? Well, the reviews are painfully specific. For smell, customers are using words like unpleasant, strange, even bad. And for packaging, they're worried about products showing up with no plastic seal, feeling like they've been opened before. This isn't just data anymore. This is direct, actionable feedback straight from your market on how to get better, fast.
So let's recap. You've analyzed your product's life stage. You've studied the competition. You even know exactly what you need to fix based on real customer feedback. But here's the thing. None of that matters one bit if you can't actually get your amazing, improved product into your customers' hands reliably and efficiently. And this is where supply chain management comes in.
I absolutely love this analogy because it is just perfect. A great supply chain isn't just about moving boxes from point A to point B. It's about being the conductor. You are orchestrating this incredibly complex network of partners, from your suppliers to your manufacturers, all the way to the final delivery person, to make sure every single piece works in perfect harmony to create a beautiful experience for the customer.
So how do you actually conduct this orchestra? Well, here are 4 key strategies. You have to collaborate like crazy with all your partners. You need to build in rigorous quality control at every single step. Your distribution network has to be optimized for both speed and cost, a tough balancing act. And holding it all together, you have to implement technology for tracking, for forecasting, and for making that entire process transparent.
All right, let's bring it all home. We've looked at the product's journey, we've scoped out the competitive landscape, we've unpacked our analytical tools, and we've talked about the delivery mechanism. Now let's see how all these pieces lock together to form one single, powerful winning strategy.
This is really the beautiful summary of the whole framework. The product lifecycle, the PLC, tells you when it's the right time to act. Competitor analysis shows you what to focus on, your unique strengths, their biggest weaknesses. And finally, supply chain management is the how. It's the operational muscle you need to actually deliver on that strategic promise. When, what, and how.
And really, this is what it all boils down to. At the end of the day, success isn't about having the longest list of features on your website. It is about delivering an outstanding, seamless, and memorable customer experience from the moment they discover you, to the core product itself, all the way to the second it arrives at their door. That's the stuff that wins.
So there you have it. You have the toolkit now. You have the frameworks to understand your product's journey, to dissect your competition, and to deliver excellence. So the only real question left is, what story are you going to tell with your product? What will you build?